Welcome back to NPTEL course Canning Technology and Value Addition of Seafood. We had been discussing about canning procedure for various food products, and under which we have completed step-by-step process variations in item-wise seafood canning. We had also seen what are the different pre-processing steps that need to be adopted to clean the fish at the initial stages, to pre-process, and what are the different methods of pre-processing. And in today's class, we are going to discuss about additives that are used in seafood industry during canning process. Now let's see what are food additives. Food additives, they are defined as substances that are added to food to maintain or to improve the safety, freshness, taste, texture or appearance of the food. So these are some additional components or additional ingredients that are added to a product. It can be done during processing, or it can be done during preservation, or it can also be done during storage. And these are done with the intention of improving the freshness, flavor, texture, and the other desirable qualities that can be expected from the food. The food additives, they have been in use for a very long time, and they have been used as preservatives. We have class 1 preservatives like salt and sugar. And they were in use for a very long time. Salt is being used to preserve bacon and dried fish, and sugar, it is used in marmalades, jams and juices to extend the shelf life and preserve the food product. And synthetic preservatives like sulfur dioxide is also being used as a preservative in food products. Many different food additives are being developed, and this is coming up, and every day we get new and new additives. And this is to meet the needs of the food production. Additives are needed to ensure that processed foods, they remain safe until it reaches to the consumer. That is, from farm till fork, it should be safe. And more than 3,000 additives have been reported in the market. They are available in the market. And use of food additives, we cannot add any food additive randomly. It needs to be justified. There should be a solid reason to add food additives in the food, and it should be a technological need, like it should improve freshness, or it should improve flavor or texture, or it should be an emulsifier which stabilizes the product, or it can be a thickener. So there should be a particular reason which is justifiable, and it should be a technological reason which is a significant one, and it should not mislead the consumers. For example, when we are adding flavor, it should not mask the original flavor of the product, should not give a false image or false impression to the consumer. So that should not happen. And also, it should be intentionally added, and whatever has been added, it should be very clearly mentioned in the label that what are the additives, the name of the additive that has been added, or the number which is given to it. So that is also very important. And substances with little or no nutritive value are also added as additives. All the additives, they will be of nutritional significance. There are additives which are added for their functional properties. Now, additives, they are used for their technological functions. The first most important reason is to preserve the nutritional quality of the food. So we have preservatives, and that is the major part of food additives that we commonly use. Then it also enhances the quality and stability of food, and it also improves the organoleptic properties, and this means the sensory properties. So it can be, there are 5 senses: sight, odor, flavor, touch, and overall acceptability. So it should be pleasing when we look at it. It should have the aesthetic appearance. The taste should be good. It shouldn't have changed from the normal or natural taste. Then smell, odor is also very important. These are the 5 senses which we use to identify the food, whether it is fresh or acceptable or not. When we add additives, it should be satisfying to our senses also. And then additives, they should also aid in manufacturing, processing, preparation, treatment, packing. So they can be added at any of these stages. But it should not change the nature of the food. It should not influence the quality of the food and deceive or mislead the consumer. That should never happen when we are adding food additives. And it should not disguise We cannot add faulty material to the product and give it to consumers saying that it's a part of the food. So it should not be in a disguise also. So that also shouldn't happen on the part of additives. Now, additives, they are put into market or they are marketed based on the suggestions received from Joint FAO-WHO Expert Committee on Food Additives. This is also called JECFA. And JECFA, they collect all the evaluations based on scientific reviews. These reviews will give an idea about the biochemical, toxicological, and other relevant ideas about additive. And they will also work on the animal tests and research studies and observations that are related to the additives. So what kind of effect it will have on human beings, because ultimately it's the human being that is who are going to consume it. So what will be effect on human beings? Such kind of studies, everything related to food additives, they will be collected. And these studies, they can be short term or long term. They can also be acute. Those things will also be considered. And mainly, they will be concentrating on ADME behavior of the food additives. So how it is absorbed in the body, how it is digested, how it is metabolized, and how it is excreted from the body. So all these 4 parameters and all the literatures and studies that are pertaining to this, they will be collected, and based on the studies, further studies, the research done by FAO and WHO, or collectively the JECFA, they will come up with the theories and they will develop policies regarding additives. And the first point in setting an additive is to establish acceptable daily intake level, and it is estimate of the amount of an additive in food or drink or a drinking water that can be safely consumed daily over a lifetime without any adverse health effects. So if you are taking salt, for example, what is the daily requirement that a person can consume, and over the life period it should not cause any harm to the person. So that kind of acceptable daily intake level will be prescribed by the CFA, and this will be adopted by all the companies wherever they are going to use the particular food additive. Now, Codex Alimentarius Commission, who establishes the maximum use of additives, they set the levels for additives in foods and beverages, and they adopt these regulations, they adopt the limits set by the JECFA and help in setting the national standards. So Codex, they act as a reference standard, and they also help in this way to protect consumers, and also they help in international trade. So this builds up the consumer confidence in the food because it will not go beyond the limit. Food is stringently following the standards, then it will not cause any harm to the consumer over a period of time. So this is how the organization is, Codex Alimentarius. They have executive committee and they have Codex Secretariat, and there are committees on general subjects and commodity subjects. So under this you can see that there are committee for additives, and this committee is called Codex Committee on Food Additives. So Codex Committee on Food Additives, or CCFA, this body, it will be very particularly concentrating on the additives. They will help in setting the levels for the additives that can be incorporated in the food. And this is how the CCFA works. JECFA, they get an inquiry or product has to be introduced into the market as an additive. The request will be sent to JECFA, and JECFA, they will collect all the informations relevant to that product. What are the hazards it may cause, or what are the harms that may happen, what are the benefits of this additive. All this information will be collected, and the trials will be done with the help of WHO and FAO, and only after they get a proper result, they will set a limit for that particular additive, and this will be conveyed to CCFA, who will transfer the information to other nations for setting the national standards. So JECFA, they give a reliable, independent scientific opinion, and this is very important in setting the standards for food additives. We have already seen it is the amount that is considered as safe to consume every day over a lifetime, which will not have any adverse effects on human beings. And ADI, it can be related to no observed effect level. So it is also called NOEL. And in chronic studies, it is very important. It's the highest tested dose of a substance that has been reported to have no adverse health effects on human or animals. So ADI and NOEL, they are totally different. ADI is the amount that can be consumed daily without any adverse effects, and NOEL is the highest dose that can be given to a person. So salt, for example, we can consume daily. Pinch of salt we add to a particular curry or food, but there's a salt tolerance in human being. We can tolerate a particular level of that will be the NOEL level, and it is not necessary. This NOEL level is the highest dose, and we cannot add that limit every day, but that is the highest dose a person can tolerate or an animal can tolerate, and ADI is always below NOEL. And when you calculate it, ADI is 100 times of NOEL. That is, you have to divide NOEL by 100, and then only you can get the ADI. So that is the safe level. In India also, we have bodies like FSSAI who are involved in setting limits for, or who decides the approval of food additives. So if we have to introduce an additive into the market, the procedures are same, given to Codex through a request, and it takes several years. You can see here in this plate that it takes 2 to 3 years to get recommendations from JECFA, and takes 2 to 3 years minimum to draft and get a final notification from the body FSSAI itself. So altogether it may take more than 6 to 7 years for a product to be introduced into the market as an additive. Now food additives, they can be classified as direct food additives or indirect food additives. Direct food additives are those additives which are added to the food directly with a specific purpose, and these are done intentionally. These are labeled in the label as ingredients. For example, we have xanthan gum. It is added intentionally to chocolate milk or salad dressings for improving the texture. So the gum, it improves the texture of the product, so we are adding it knowingly. So that is a food additive, whereas indirect food additives are those additives which come into the food unknowingly. It is not done intentionally, but only trace amounts will be added during the processing or packaging or storage. For example, if you have in a processing line, if it is greased or oiled, this oil may enter into the food product when the food passes through that conveyor belt. So that is an indirect additive, and it comes in trace amount. Indirect additives happens unknowingly, and it is not labeled in the food because it's happening generally during the process. Now food additives, they can also be classified based on their origin, from where they have been taken. So natural food additives are those additives which are derived from natural sources like plants, animals, minerals, or microbes. We also have synthetic additives, food additives, which are synthesized in the lab, and these are also called artificial food additives. And we have another group of food additives which are called nature identical food additives. Nature identical food additives, they look exactly like natural additives, but they will be synthesized in the lab. These are the different categories of food additives. Lycopene is a natural additive which can derive from tomato. Tomato is rich in lycopene, so that's a natural additive, but it can be synthesized in the lab, so it becomes a nature identical additive. So it's the same structure of lycopene, but it is synthesized artificially, so it is a nature identical food additive. Whereas BHA, for example, butylated hydroxyanisole, which is an antioxidant, it's a completely new thing, so it is synthesized. MSG is again an additive. It is also synthesized in the laboratory, so they are artificial additives. Now all the additives, they are numbered, and if you look at the classification here, we have additives that belong to colorants, preservatives, antioxidants, we have acidity regulators, we also have thickeners, stabilizers, emulsifiers. Anti-caking agents are those agents that are added to salt to prevent caking, because you know that salt, it doesn't cake, it doesn't form lumps. So that is done using anti-caking agents. Then we have flavor enhancers like glutamates and MSGs. Then glazing agents, sweeteners, gases, inert gases are used as propellants in food, in whipping cream, etc. So these are different types of additives. And if you look at the figure here, on the left side, they are given numbers. So usually these are called E numbers, and we have E numbers from 100 to 1599. Now, e-numbering system, it is very important. These are also called International Numbering System or INS. And e-numbering system came into practice because of the commercial interest and the pressure from the consumer. So regulations were set for labeling the additives, and E stands for European nations. So all those additives which are sold or which are marketed in the Europe, they are given E number, and it is a prefix E is given to the number. So E and 100, E100, E199, like that it will be given. And all the European nations, you will find it with prefix E, but there are nations like Australia and New Zealand where E is not used, but they will follow the same numbering system. So either this way with the E as prefix or without E as prefix, the number can be adopted, and this number is universal for throughout the world. So E260, it can be sold as 260 also, and it will mean that acetic acid has been added to the food. So that will be the additive. Now, nutritional additives, they are a very important group of additives. Nutritional additives, as the name suggests, they enhance the nutrition in the food. So these can be vitamins, they can be minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids. So these are the 4 different groups of additives that are added to food to enhance the nutritional property of the food. They also provide functional properties too. And these additives are added to the food to restore the loss which may happen during processing, storage, handling, or other processes. So, for example, the gooseberry, which is rich in vitamin C, if it is processed, vitamin C being heat sensitive, it may be lost during processing. So we can add vitamin C to the product. We are enriching the product, or we can fortify it with another compound. So these are 2 methods by which the component it can be added as a food additive. Now, nutritional food additives, they can be available in different forms. They can be available as powders, encapsulated in gelatin. They can also be emulsified. So it is based on the application where it is going to be used. And selection of the form of additive depends upon the stability of the additive and how easily it can dissolve or it can mix with the food. Food matrix also is very important, and food matrix, it includes all the macro and micro components. So how easily it can get integrated with the food matrix also is very important in selecting the food additive. So the next major group is preservatives. Again, we are all familiar with different types of preservatives that we use in our food day to day. And preservatives, it's important because they help in extending the shelf life of the product. They also help in maintaining the food quality, physiochemical properties. They also maintain the functional properties, and they do not affect the nutritive components. They do not interact with nutritive components. And so the nutritional profile of the product will be maintained as such, and therefore food security and integrity of food products, to maintain them, we need preservatives. And we have different types of preservatives. These are natural preservatives as well as artificial preservatives. Natural preservatives are those preservatives that are taken from natural sources, and artificial ones, they are synthesized in the lab or they are synthesized for the commercial purposes. We can also go for conventional type of preservations for extending the shelf life of the product. Canning is of course the conventional type of preservation method which helps in extending the shelf life, but preservation techniques and preservatives are different. In preservatives, we add chemicals and we extend the shelf life. We'll wind up with this for today, and the classification of preservatives and its properties and different types of preservatives and other aspects of food additives, we'll discuss it in the other class. Thank you.